What's up guys, and welcome back to Lincoln, where we have finally made it to the end of the season. So, as you may have just spotted there, we did in fact finish top 4. We did not win the league, which to be honest was kind of expected. Towards the end of the season it was really livening up, and to be honest we were kind of lucky to even finish top 4. It was that close. But we did ultimately finish top 4, and yeah, we did alright actually in the end. Watford, who were above us, we actually ended up beating, I think on the last day of the season we managed to get ahead of them, or the last couple of games of the season we managed to get ahead of them. But yeah, it was all turned around, because if you can remember back to the start of the season, it was all over the place. And I mean, the league is still kind of all over the place, but some of the big teams did start to sort out their form. City did really well, got up to about 4th or 5th, and then started to drop off again. Chelsea did really well, got up to the top, dropped off, and then went back up there again, and ultimately won the league. Leicester did alright, Spurs did alright, we did amazingly. Watford doing amazingly, West Ham up there as well, just missing out on the Europa League spot by 2 points. Stoke as well, only a couple of points behind West Ham, and then Man United behind Stoke on goal difference. So yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, quite frankly, some of this league. But going into the last 2 or 3 games, we could have, I think we were sitting about 4th or 5th on about 63 points, 64 points, and there was only, like, one loss and we could have dropped down to 9th. One win and we could have gone up to 1st or 2nd. So it was that close. Like, going into the last 2 games of the season, Chelsea weren't even guaranteed Champions League football. With only 2 games left in the season, they were top of the league and they weren't guaranteed Champions League football. That's how close it was. So it was, yeah, it was really, really good and very, very tight going into the last couple of games, and made for a very entertaining end of the season, which we did actually ultimately succeed at getting into the Champions League. Well, albeit we are having to go through the playoffs, the qualifying round. We don't get an automatic position. We lost that by a point to Spurs, but I'll take it nevertheless. But yeah, as you can see, down the bottom half of the table, Liverpool doing poorly, only managing to get 48 points in the end. Arsenal even worse, only 43 points. Relegation zone, Burnley got relegated a point behind West Brom, who only came up with us last season. So they almost got themselves promoted and then straight away relegated again, but they have survived, managing to win 7 games in 38, which is absolutely atrocious. Although not as bad as Huddersfield, who only managed to win 4 of their 38 games, drawing 14, which is actually alright compared to some of the teams around them, but they lost 20 and only managed to win 4, so that's where they ultimately came a rise. If they had transferred a few of those draws into wins, they would have easily stayed up, but unfortunately, the way it was, they have been relegated. So yeah, I'm not sure who's going to come up with us, or come up next season into this league, but it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, it'll be fun to play in the Champions League, hopefully, next season, if we can get through the qualifying round. As for the FA Cup, ultimately Watford won that. We did absolutely atrociously. I think we got knocked out in the 3rd round, which I think is the first round that we were actually in it. We got immediately knocked out. But as you can see there, Watford beating West Ham in the semi-final, and then beating Leicester in the final 3-0. Again, a very odd season in the Champions League, FA Cup. Liverpool, the only what you consider big team, but or actually no, Man City are there as well, and Tottenham. I'm talking an absolute bunch of crap here, but anyway, there is, like, probably a conversation to be had here as to what is actually a top 4 team these days, given that Man United, Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal all failed to even get close to the top 6. So yeah, it's an interesting turn of events. This seems to happen every year actually on FIFA. They always seem to end up with teams like Watford and Leicester doing really well, and teams like Liverpool for some reason always doing really badly. But anyway, we shall move on to the Carabao Cup, which Wolves won. We got to the semi-final before losing to Wolves 5-2, which was an absolute disgrace, those 2 games. We really, that score does not represent what happened over those 2 legs. But ultimately, Wolves did win the cup against Tottenham, who actually put Chelsea out in the semi-final. A bit more competitive this round. Chelsea in there, Spurs in the semi-final, Southampton getting put out in penalties by Spurs. Anyone else massive? Liverpool got knocked out by West Brom, as you would do. Yeah, it's not bad. It's an alright looking competition. Our pre-season friendly, that means nothing. Copa Europe, Villarreal beat Barcelona 3-2, all Spanish affair. Don't know, not much to say about that. Champions League shall hopefully appear once it loads. There we go, Champions League. Liverpool won the Champions League against PSG 2-1. I mean, it's within the realms of possibility that Liverpool will win the Champions League this season as well, which is in reality, which would be quite the turnaround for Liverpool. But it's they've performed well in FIFA nevertheless. So yeah, doing all right. They put out Leverkusen, Atletico, AC Milan, and then ultimately PSG, who actually put out Man United, made it to the semi-final. PSG had to put out Real Madrid as well in the round of 16. Man United up against Juve, some very tasty ties in there. Man United, Juve, PSG, Bayern, Real, sorry, PSG, Man United, Liverpool, AC Milan, Liverpool, Atletico. AC Milan actually, making it to the semi-final, put out Barcelona in the round of 16. So both the big two Spanish giants got put out in the round of 16, which is not like them. But anyway, that is the Champions League. Look at the Europa League, see what happened there. And Chelsea won the Europa League against Villarreal, who actually put Barcelona out of the Copa Europe, the Champions Cup last season. Villarreal almost doing a back-to-back Europa League win, but ultimately losing to Chelsea in the final, who actually put out Benfica, who actually put out Tottenham. Interesting. Quite a few big names in there. Benfica, Tottenham, Chelsea, Valencia, Villarreal obviously getting to the final. Inter got put out by Villarreal in the round of 16. Dortmund got put out by Valencia in the round of 16. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Some interesting looking games there. 4-3 over 2 legs. The Benfica Tottenham game. That's quite an interesting. That would have been an entertaining game. I have no doubts. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, I would say it's a pretty successful season. Won the league and won the Europa League. They would have preferred to have been in the Champions League, but I think they had such a bad season last season that they ended up in the Europa League. Like they missed out on top 4, which is ultimately why they're in the Europa League in the first place, and they've made the most of it and won it. So that has been the competitions. As for our squad, we'll have a quick wee spy over our squad. The performing very nicely and coming along very nicely as well in terms of ratings. This Ariado lad that we signed at the start of the season with his 5-star skills, DM. Not really sure how a DM manages to swangle a 5-star skill rating, but anyway, he's doing very well, as is Castro here, 80 rated. Our striker is absolutely on fire, 85 rated. Insane as well is just, he's been absolutely tearing it up. To be honest, I'm surprised he's only rated 78, to be honest. He should probably be at least 80. Oriol Busquets up to 80. We've got our 2 centre-backs, both 77 rated. Igor Castro, our goalkeeper, up to 84. Buniel up to 78, so he's a player we actually own, which is quite good. Unlike Malakia, who's 72 rated, but he's on loan. We still have him for 6 months, so we've got him until January. So that'll be, well, not 6 months from now, but 6 months from the next transfer window, which is in a month or 2. But anyway, we have him until January, so we've got another half a season in him before we have to send him back to Barcelona. So we need to find somebody else, and that'll be fun. Palmer Brown's leaving because we didn't renew his contract. Ole Eina's on loan from Chelsea, so he'll be leaving. I can't remember when we got him actually. I can't remember if we got him at the start of the season or if we got him in January. Oh, well, I'll find out at some point. Actually, I think we got him at the start of the season, so I think we're going to lose him in a couple of months. This Cardozo boy as well. Are both our goalkeepers? No, that's Castro and that's Cardozo. Okay. He's coming along nicely. Kind of unfortunate. He's 80 rated, but he's our backup goalkeeper. So yeah, he's not having the greatest of times. He'd probably be preferring to play first team football a bit more. Once Palmer Brown does depart us, we have Ben Klukas on the bench that we've brought in last year. So he'll be taking the position of Palmer Brown as our backup centre back. But yeah, to be honest, there's a lot of youth and a lot of potential in this reserves, but not much of it coming through too quickly, unfortunately. It'd be nice if we got a few players who were bursting into the first team. Actually, yeah, that reminds me, this Javier boy's up to 82 as well. So yeah, a lot of very good looking midfielders, a lot of good looking strikers, and some decent defenders, but we could probably do with some better fullbacks Uh, and maybe a defender who's actually sort of more 80 rated. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. We're performing very nicely, and as you can see, everybody's in form. Everybody loving life at the moment. Now, I did leave you last week with a bit of a depressed scene, which was that we had no money, and we also had a bunch of players, all very good-looking players potential-wise, who were running out of contract at the end of the season. Now that has changed, and it has changed because I came to the conclusion that we are a very small team performing very well in the Premier League, finished top 4, and that has, in my opinion, at least, warranted somebody with a lot of money to come in and buy us. So we have had a financial takeover. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I actually set out doing this career mode in the idea that we would not do one ever, but unfortunately it got to the point where I was like, I just can't risk losing these players. I don't know how much money we'll get at the start of next season, hopefully a lot, given that we finished top 4, but if we lose 3 or 4 of our biggest players for absolutely nothing, it leaves us in a very, very difficult position trying to maintain our where we are. And to be honest, I would see us struggling to stay in this league if we were to lose like 3 or 4 of our key players and we didn't have the money to replace them. So I did do a financial takeover. It gave us about 30 million. I put a lot of that into our wage budget and just replaced everybody's contracts. So we've got a load of players now on 3 or 4 year contracts that should hopefully be around long enough that we're able to make some decent money on them if they do get sold. Otherwise, they've got really good potential, so they'll be good for us for the future going forward. But yeah, as I said, it wasn't something I was hoping or wanting to do, but I kind of got to the point where I was in desperation mode. Quite frankly, I was in desperation mode to keep this career on tracks, and ultimately, I mean, to be fair, I think it was warranted. I think given that we had gone back-to-back promotions to the Premier League, we finished top 4. I would be surprised if an investor did not come into the club. But yeah, it was something I had to force through. Anyway, that is what's happened this season. Next season, we'll get into the transfer window, and we'll see if we can pick up a couple of players. There's not really a location on the pitch where I'm lacking anything in particular. We'll see how much money we have, and then we'll kind of go from there. It would be probably quite good to get ourselves a left back who is permanent, not just a loanee. Somebody with a lot of potential and who could really push on in this squad. But apart from that, there's not really much. I might just get a few rotation players. Maybe might bring in one big key name, just to kind of like bring a bit of experience into the squad, because it's a lot of youth. And it would probably be quite nice to just have one of the a midfielder or something with decent experience. But having said that, we've been performing very well, so I'm not really pushed to get somebody absolutely amazing, so we'll see. But again, it all comes down to how much money we have going into the transfer window next season. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what offers come in for some of these players, because they're really doing pretty well. And now that they've got 3 or 4 year contracts, they're worth a hell of a lot more than they were at the start of last season. So yeah, I'm hoping that we have some interesting business and a lot happens. But nevertheless, we will reconvene in the transfer deadline day of summer 2021. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe as well if you're new around here. That'd be absolutely amazing. And I'll catch you guys next week for some transfer dealings. So until then, cheerio.